deepest, quietest corners of the cosmos, the Galactic Council held one law above all others, a rule etched into the very fabric of their society: never, ever interfere with the humans of Earth. To the other species flitting between star systems, humanity was a whispered legend, a cautionary tale. They were called fragile, yet unpredictable, chaotic, yet surprisingly resilient. But most of all, they were considered dangerous, a paradox wrapped in a mystery, living on a pale blue dot. Of course, rules, especially the most absolute ones, have a funny way of sparking curiosity. And curiosity, as we know, is a powerful force. High above Earth's swirling atmosphere, cloaked in technology far beyond human comprehension, Captain Zorlan of the mighty Zyphor fleet watched. His sophisticated sensors, capable of reading the faintest energy signatures from light years away, were focused on a single, isolated spot on the planet below. Reports had flooded the galactic channels, urgent and disbelieving. A small, insignificant human settlement had somehow, impossibly, activated an ancient energy source. This wasn't just any old power generator. It was a relic from a forgotten age, a device of unimaginable power that even the most advanced civilizations treated with caution and fear. Zorlan let out a low hum, the Zyphorian equivalent of a sigh. Curious creatures, he muttered to his first officer, his multiple eyes scanning the holographic displays. They can barely manage to survive the climate shifts on their own world, and yet, here they are, playing with cosmic fire, meddling with forces they cannot possibly comprehend. He had read the historical files. He'd seen the simulations of what could happen, down on Earth. Oblivious to the silent observers in her sky, a young woman named Mara was having a very strange day. She was an explorer of forgotten places, a scavenger of the world that was in the crumbling ruins of a laboratory abandoned long before she was born. She had found it. A perfect, seamless orb, humming with a soft, internal light. It called to her, a siren song of pure energy. Unaware of the galactic laws she was about to shatter. Driven by that all-too-human curiosity, Zorlan had just been lamenting. Mara reached out her hand. The moment her fingers brushed against its smooth surface, the orb pulsed violently. Light exploded from its core, engulfing her. Mara cried out as a torrent of power surged through her veins. It was a sensation unlike any other, agonizing pain and overwhelming exhilaration, all wrapped into one breathtaking moment. She felt the universe crack open inside her mind, knowledge and energy pouring in, rewriting her very being. Far above, unseen and unheard, the bridge of the Zyphor flagship erupted in a symphony of alarms. Red lights flashed across every console. The sensors weren't just detecting the energy spike anymore. They were screaming, overloaded by a reading that was, by all galactic standards, impossible. The Council had always warned them. They had drilled it into every captain, every soldier, every diplomat. Touching a human, making direct contact, was forbidden for a very, very good reason. Their unique biological and spiritual matrix, when combined with certain cosmic energies, could create something new, something uncontrollable. Zorlan's come crackled to life, the panicked voice of the Council liaison echoing through the bridge. "Captain, what is your status? What is that reading?" But Zorlan was already giving his own order, his voice grim and steady, the weight of galaxies in his tone. "Report this." Immediately, a single human had touched a forbidden power. A single human had broken the most important rule in the universe. And now, the universe was about to respond. The age of non-interference was over. The age of consequence had just begun. The council chamber hummed, not with sound, but with the frantic projections of 1,000 minds. Beings from every known star system, entities of light, gas, and solid matter, all focused on a single, terrifying thought. It was a representative from the Cygnus arm who finally gave it voice, a crackle of static across the psychic network. They touched it, the humans. They cannot be contained. A wave of dread rippled through the assembled consciousnesses. The first rule, The most sacred law that had maintained cosmic balance for eons had been shattered. Do not touch the Genesis relics. And a primitive, chaotic species from a backwater planet had just stumbled upon one. I am Zorlin, a Xylution observer. My species is known for its patience, for its meticulous collection of data over millennia. When the call came for a volunteer to monitor the unfolding crisis on Earth, I stepped forward. Or rather, I projected my willingness. A sense of deep unease gnawed at my core. I'd observed countless nascent civilizations. I'd watched stars be born and die. But watching humans? It was different. They were unpredictable, driven by fleeting emotions and reckless impulses. Yet, there was a spark, a stubborn resilience that defied all my models. They failed, they fought, they fell, but they always got back up. My focus narrowed to a single human female, Mara. She was the one who first made contact with the relic. It was a simple, weathered stone in her small settlement. Something they'd used as a communal meeting point for generations, oblivious to its true nature. But when Mara touched it, something changed. Every time she felt fear, or joy, or desperation, the energy around her amplified. A scraped knee from a fall, a moment of terror when a predator neared the village wall's edge event didn't weaken her. It made the relic's power surge. Back on Earth, Mara was oblivious to the galactic panic she had caused. Her life was hard, filled with the daily struggles of survival. But things were getting easier, almost magically so, when a fierce storm rolled in. A shimmering, invisible barrier deflected the worst of the winds. When a sickness swept through a neighboring village, hers remained untouched. Mara didn't understand it, but she felt it, a warmth that emanated from her very being. A protective hum that seemed to answer her deepest anxieties. The energy was integrating with them, responding to their collective will to survive. I presented my findings to the council. The human survival instinct, amplified by the relic, was creating a feedback loop. It was a biological and energetic phenomenon, stronger than any known force in the galaxy. The council's projections were a storm of fear and logic. Containment is the only option, buzzed a crystalline mind from Andromeda. Encase the planet in a temporal field. Isolate them before they destabilize everything. They were right to be afraid, but my data told a different story. I interrupted the panicked debate, my own thoughts projected with a clarity born of pure data. Containment may be impossible, I stated. The relic isn't just an object anymore. It's becoming a part of them. The humans themselves are evolving, and they are evolving too fast for us to stop. A stunned silence filled the chamber. The implications were staggering. If we couldn't contain them, what was the alternative? The old ways, the treaties and gentle nudges, were designed for predictable species. Humans were anything but. And so, a new directive was issued, a complete reversal of millennia of policy. The first direct contact with humanity was to begin. Not with grand starships descending from the heavens, or formal diplomatic greetings. It would begin with me, with observation. A quiet, careful study of a species that had broken the first and most important rule of the universe, simply by surviving. The age of isolation was over. The age of humanity had begun. Word of humanity's interference spread through the cosmos like a shockwave. To the established powers of the galaxy, this was an unacceptable breach of protocol. A species so young, so reckless, had dared to meddle in affairs far beyond its understanding. The response was swift and decisive. Alien mercenaries were dispatched, highly trained, technologically superior. They descended upon Mara's settlement, expecting a quick, clean operation. Their mission was simple: eliminate the upstart species and restore order. They arrived in a storm of strange lights and searing energy beams. The sky above the fledgling human colony bled with colors never before seen on Earth. This was supposed to be a slaughter, an effortless culling. The mercenaries, veterans of countless campaigns, believed this would be their easiest paycheck yet. But from the moment the first shot was fired, everything went wrong. Every attack they launched, every meticulously planned strategy, simply failed. Human adaptability, a trait forged in the crucible of their own chaotic world, proved to be an utterly confounding variable. The aliens fought with logic, with centuries of established combat doctrine. The humans fought with instinct, desperation, and a stubborn refusal to die. They used the terrain in ways the mercenaries couldn't predict. They repurposed alien tech on the fly, turning their enemies' weapons against them. They coordinated with a fluid, almost chaotic synergy that defied all tactical analysis. One alien soldier, his senses overwhelmed by Mara's unpredictable bursts of power that seemed to warp reality itself, found himself backed into a corner. He'd seen warriors from 1,000 different worlds, but he'd never seen anything like this. He whispered into his comms unit, his voice trembling with a mixture of fear and awe. "They're different. They fight with something more than strength. It's like their spirit has its own will, its own weapon." His comrades, scattered and struggling, heard his words, and a chilling realization began to dawn on them. They weren't fighting soldiers, they were fighting a force of nature. Meanwhile, light years away, the Galactic Council watched the events unfold on their celestial monitors. The chamber was filled with ancient beings, entities who had witnessed the birth and death of stars. Among them, the oldest member, an ethereal entity named Lyrith, observed the chaos with an unnerving stillness. His colleagues murmured in confusion and frustration, unable to comprehend how a primitive species could resist such overwhelming force. Lyrith finally spoke, his voice echoing not with sound, but with pure thought that resonated in the minds of all present. "They break the rules," he projected, his ancient gaze fixed on the flickering image of the human settlement. "They defy the laws of probability, of strategy, of survival itself. Yet, they endure." A long pause followed as the council processed the weight of his words. "They may even survive what the universe itself throws at them." On that small, embattled world, a new legend was being forged in fire and light. The first humans to truly face the galaxy's wrath weren't just fighting for their lives. They were fighting for the right to exist on their own terms. They were about to rewrite the very definition of what it meant to be a survivor, sending a clear message to the cosmos. Humanity had arrived, and they would not be easily dismissed. The universe had rules, but humans were about to prove they were the exception. Thank you for watching this chapter of our story. If you're as excited as I am to see what happens next, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss where this journey takes us. Until next time, stay curious. Have you ever felt like there's more to you than meets the eye? A hidden strength you can't quite explain? That's exactly where our hero, Mara, finds herself. She thought the incredible power coursing through her veins came from an ancient relic she stumbled upon. A lucky find, a twist of fate. But she was wrong. It was so much more than that. The power wasn't just in the relic. It was inside her, waiting to be awakened. It was in all of us. Mara started to notice the little things first. A deep cut from a skirmish would seal itself overnight. A surprise attack from an alien scout would be met with a perfect countermove she didn't even have to think about. It was like her body knew what to do before her mind even caught up. She felt a strange resilience humming beneath her skin, a quiet strength that defied all logic. This wasn't magic, not in the way she understood it. This was something different, something human. Her curiosity led her to the data logs of Zorlan, the very alien commander who had been hunting her. As she decrypted his private logs, a shocking truth began to unfold. Zorlan wasn't just documenting his failures to capture her, he was studying humanity itself. His notes were filled with a mix of frustration and awe. He wrote about our bizarre ability to adapt, not over generations, but in real time, in the heat of battle. Every injury, every setback, seemed to make us stronger, faster, smarter. Zorlan's most startling discovery was how our minds process danger. For his species, and every other alien race they had encountered, danger triggered a simple fight-or-flight response. It was a linear process, but humans were different. When faced with a threat, our minds explode with activity. We don't just see the danger. We simultaneously calculate a dozen different risks, formulate multiple escape routes, and brainstorm a handful of counterattacks, all in the span of a single heartbeat. It was a level of parallel processing that Zorlin's people considered a biological impossibility. He called it chaotic adaptation, a trait unique to humans in the entire known galaxy. This revelation changed everything for Mara. She wasn't just a girl with a powerful artifact. She was the living proof of humanity's hidden potential. The relic hadn't given her power. It had simply unlocked the door to what was already there, amplifying the innate abilities that lay dormant in every human being. We were a species of survivors, of innovators, of instinctive fighters. We were built to overcome the impossible. The universe, it seemed, had stacked the deck in our favor without us even knowing it. But with this incredible knowledge came an even heavier burden. Mara now understood the sheer scale of the energy she was wielding. It was raw, untamed, and connected to the very core of her being. The same power that allowed her to heal in an instant could just as easily erupt and incinerate a city block. Her greatest challenge wasn't the alien fleet gathering at the edge of the solar system. It wasn't Zorlin and his relentless pursuit. No, the most terrifying enemy she faced was the fear blooming in her own heart. Could she truly control this storm inside her without becoming the monster she was fighting against? What if one wrong move, one moment of lost control, meant destroying the very people, the very world she was trying so desperately to protect? The universe had laid out its ultimate test, and on the surface, it looked like humanity was failing. We were scattered, we were scared, we were losing, but that was only what you could see. Beneath the surface, in the heart of a young woman grappling with a terrifying power, a change was coming. Humanity wasn't failing. We were just getting started. The council chamber hummed with a tension that could shatter worlds. Lirith, his ethereal form shimmering with agitation, addressed the assembly. Containment is failing. The protocols are breaking down one by one. The humans, their unpredictability, their sheer tenacity. They may destabilize entire sectors if we don't act decisively. His voice echoed the collective fear of the oldest beings in the galaxy. They had watched countless species rise and fall, but humanity was different. They were a chaotic variable in a perfectly calculated cosmic equation. Zorlin, the High Adjudicator, listened in silence. His mind, usually a fortress of cold logic and ancient law, was now a battleground. Duty demanded, he authorized the final sanction, a cleansing fire to cauterize the human expansion before it became a galactic plague. But a different impulse stirred within him, a forbidden spark of curiosity. These humans, who fought with such reckless abandon, who built and dreamed amidst the chaos they created, what drove them? It was a question that gnawed at the very foundations of his understanding. He couldn't bring himself to simply erase them. He had to know. Breaking protocol, a transgression that could cost him everything. Zorlin bypassed the Council's communication blockade. He reached out across the void, not with the force of a weapon, but with the subtlety of a thought. He found her mind amidst the cacophony of a species on the brink of commander. A leader, her name was Mara. He felt her fear, her exhaustion, but beneath it all, an unyielding core of defiance. Gently, he whispered into her consciousness, a voice from the stars. You are more than your species. You are a possibility. Survive this, and the universe will remember you. The message was cryptic, a seed planted in the fertile ground of her resolve. He offered no aid, no promises, only a challenge. On the bridge of her flagship, the Indomitable, Mara flinched. The voice was not her own, yet it felt impossibly intimate, echoing in the deepest chambers of her mind. The weight of the cosmos seemed to press down on her. The sheer scale of their struggle laid bare. Was this a trick? A new form of psychological warfare from the enemy they called the Phantoms? Her crew looked to her, their faces etched with the fatigue of a war without end. Doubt was a luxury she couldn't afford. But then, the voice's words resonated with the truth she had always known. Humans were more than just flesh and bone. They were an idea, an unstoppable force of will. Determination surged through her like a supernova. The first strike, the unprovoked attack that should have shattered their civilization and sent them cowering back to their home world, had done the opposite. It had forged them in fire. It had united them. It had reminded them of who they were. Humans never surrendered. With newfound clarity, Mara stood tall. The weight on her shoulders was still there, but it no longer felt like a burden. It felt like a mantle of responsibility. She looked at the star chart, at the encroaching enemy fleets, and a slow, dangerous smile touched her lips. They thought they were fighting a species. They were about to learn they were fighting an idea. Zorlan felt the shift in her mind, the flicker of doubt extinguished and replaced by a blazing inferno of purpose. He had not given her a weapon, but something far more powerful, a reason. He had broken his most sacred vows, not to harm, but to learn. And as he watched Mara's fleet rearrange into a daring, unheard formation, he knew he was about to witness something the galaxy had never seen before. The lesson was about to begin. The universe was about to remember the name human. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from across the cosmos. The cosmos went silent for a moment, a held breath before the storm. Then, the alien armada unleashed its fury. This wasn't a skirmish, it was an annihilation. Their primary weapons weren't designed to conquer, but to unmake worlds. Beams of raw destructive power, capable of tearing a planet's crust apart, lanced through the void, aimed at the heart of our final stronghold. Cities turned to glass, continents buckled under the sheer force. It was a symphony of destruction, and we were the final, fading note. But they miscalculated. They didn't account for Mara. Standing on the precipice of the command bridge, the maelstrom reflected in her eyes. Mara reached for the relic. It wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense. It was an artifact of a forgotten age, humming with a power that defied physics. As her fingers closed around it, the ancient device pulsed, syncing with her heartbeat, her will. She didn't shout, she didn't scream, she simply pushed back. From the relic, from Mara herself, bloomed a shield of pure, golden energy. It enveloped the planet, a fragile, beautiful shell against the apocalypse. The planet killer beams struck, and for a heart-stopping second, everything was white light and roaring sound. But the shield held. It buckled, it groaned, but it did not break. Mara, a lone figure against an entire armada, was holding back the end of the world. Miles away, deep within the mountain's core, Zorlan watched the data streams cascade across his monitors. The information flowing from the battlefield was chaotic, a torrent of sensor readings and casualty reports. But amidst the noise, a single, impossible pattern emerged. He ran the numbers again, then a third time. The conclusion was undeniable. On his screen, human biometric data flashed next to that of a dozen other species who had faced this same enemy. The alien's primary psychological weapon, a low-frequency broadcast designed to induce crippling, species-wide panic, was having zero effect. No, that wasn't right. It was having a negative effect. Human combat effectiveness was actually increasing. Their adrenaline, their cortisol levels, they weren't responding with fear. They were responding with rage. Zorlan leaned back, the cold metal of his chair a stark contrast to the firestorm of realization in his mind. The Galactic Council had classified humans as a level 7 civilization, promising, but fragile, prone to emotion, illogical. They saw our art, our love, our grief, and they labeled it weakness. They underestimated us. They saw a species that broke its own rules, that defied its own instincts for survival to save one another. They saw a people who would run into a fire, not away from it. They couldn't comprehend it. How could a species so aware of its own mortality be so utterly fearless when it mattered most? His data confirmed the impossible. Humans were immune to manufactured fear in a way no other known species could ever hope to replicate. It wasn't a genetic quirk or a technological defense. It was a choice. On the front lines, that choice was being made 1,000,000 times a second. Pilots, knowing their fighters were outclassed, flew directly into the enemy's cannon fire to create an opening for the ship behind them. Soldiers, with nothing but rifles against armored walkers, held their ground, becoming an immovable wall of defiance. Medics rushed onto active battlefields, shielding the wounded with their own bodies. Every law of survival was being shattered. Every instinct to flee was being ignored. This wasn't a calculated military strategy. It was something raw, something primal. It was the human spirit, laid bare. Looking at the shield Mara was projecting, seeing the fighters rally behind it, witnessing the impossible courage on the ground, Zorlin finally understood. The Council had been wrong about everything. They saw our short lifespans and our delicate bodies, and called us fragile. But they never looked deeper. They never saw the steel in our spines. Fragility was an illusion. We didn't fight because we thought we could win. We fought because we were told we would lose. In the face of extinction, humanity was not just surviving. It was showing the galaxy what it truly meant to be alive, and the universe would never be the same. The Council of Worlds had a rule, an axiom etched into the very fabric of their interstellar law. Never uplift a species still bound to its cradle, especially not one like humanity. They were deemed too volatile, too emotional, too prone to self-destruction. The Council watched from their nebula-shrouded citadels, expecting humanity to fizzle out. Another brief, chaotic spark in the cosmic dark. So they sent a test, a challenge designed to confirm their bias. They terraformed a world, a place they called Kepler 186f, but left it barren, a blank slate of rock and thin atmosphere. And then they waited for the inevitable failure. They sent a single ship, the Odyssey, carrying 1,000 souls led by a woman named Mara. It was a one-way trip, a desperate gamble for survival. The Council predicted famine within a decade, societal collapse within a generation. They watched as the Odyssey's landing was anything but graceful, a controlled crash that scattered debris across a desolate plain. They watched the first shelters, crude and fragile against the alien winds. The initial reports confirmed their predictions. Dwindling supplies, internal strife, the slow march toward extinction. The observers in their cloaked ships cataloged every setback, preparing their final report on the folly of the human experiment. But then, something shifted. Something the Council's cold logic couldn't compute. The humans didn't just survive. They improvised. They repurposed the crashed hull of the Odyssey, its twisted metal becoming the spine of their first permanent settlement, which they named Defiance. They didn't have advanced farming tech, so they used their knowledge of extremophiles from Earth, cultivating lichen and algae in sealed biodomes, slowly, painstakingly creating soil. They harnessed the planet's violent geothermal activity, not as a threat, but as an endless source of power. Every problem became a puzzle, every setback a lesson. The Council's observers were baffled. They saw engineers turning scrap into functioning water purifiers. They saw botanists crossbreeding earth plants with hardy local flora they discovered, creating hybrids that could thrive in the thin, nitrogen-rich air. They saw artists painting murals on the interior walls of their habitat, depicting not their past sorrows, but their future hopes. They saw children born on this new world, children who knew nothing of Earth's green fields, but could name every constellation in Kepler's sky. The humans weren't just enduring, they were creating. They were building a culture. The word spread beyond the Council's private channels. Other species, ancient and powerful, turned their own sensors toward this strange little colony on the galactic rim. They saw what the Council had missed, not chaos, but a vibrant, chaotic creativity. They saw not weakness, but a ferocious courage in the face of impossible odds. Mara's settlement became a beacon, Not a beacon of conquest, not another empire hungry for territory, but something far more profound. It was a testament to defiance itself, a living, breathing symbol that the universe's rules could be rewritten. The humans, once dismissed as a cosmic footnote, were becoming a legend. They weren't weapons to be feared. They were catalysts, introducing a variable of unpredictable, passionate ingenuity into the galaxy's state equation. Their story, transmitted in hushed whispers across light years, began to chip away at millennia of established dogma. Even within the Council of Worlds, a seed of doubt was planted. The observers' reports changed tone, from detached analysis to grudging admiration, and then to outright fascination. Perhaps the rule was wrong. Perhaps this volatile emotional species wasn't a danger to be contained. Perhaps they were a phenomenon to be studied, a lesson to be learned from. The universe was watching, and for the first time, it wasn't waiting for humanity to fail. It was waiting to see what they would do next. The final wave of the alien assault shattered against the bulwark of human defiance, just as every wave before it had. On the bridge of her command ship, the Marauder, Captain Eva Rostova watched the last of the enemy fleet tear through the fabric of space, their retreat a disorganized, desperate scramble. For months, they had thrown everything they had at Earth and its fledgling colonies. Superior technology, overwhelming numbers, tactics honed over millennia of conquest across countless star systems. And for months, they had failed. Eva slumped into her command chair, the bone-deep weariness of 100 battles settling upon her. Her uniform was stained, her eyes were bloodshot, but a fierce, unyielding light burned within them. She looked at the faces of her crew on the bridge, tired, battered, but alive and unbroken. They had won, but how? Across the void, aboard the flagship of the retreating armada, High Commander Zorlan prepared his report for the Galactic Council. His metallic fingers, usually so steady, trembled as they danced across the holographic interface. The council chambers shimmered into existence before him, filled with the ethereal forms of beings ancient beyond measure. Zorlan bowed his head, the shame of his defeat, a physical weight. The campaign against Sector 7G, designation Earth, has failed, he began, his voice a low thrum of static and regret. The indigenous species, the humans, they are not what our archives predicted. A murmur rippled through the council. We followed every protocol, every strategy that has secured victory for 1,000,000 years. We analyzed their weaknesses, their societal structures, their very biology. We predicted their every move. He paused, gathering his thoughts. And that was our mistake. We predicted them based on logic, but they are not logical. Eva stared out at the starfield, a replay of the final battle glowing on a side monitor. She saw it clearly now. The aliens were masters of the game, playing by a set of rules so ancient, they were considered universal law. They anticipated moves, calculated probabilities, and executed flawless strategies. But humans, they kept changing the rules. When the aliens predicted a defensive formation, human ships would scatter in a chaotic, suicidal charge that somehow broke the enemy line. When logic dictated a retreat, they held their ground, fighting with a ferocity born of desperation and sheer stubbornness. They sacrificed pieces you would never sacrifice. They made moves that were, by any sane calculation, insane. They didn't just think outside the box. They set the box on fire and danced in the ashes. We survive, Eva realized, because we refuse to just obey. We question, we adapt, we break every rule in the book if it means one more sunrise. They do not value their individual lives in the way our algorithms suggested. Zorlan continued, his voice strained. They fight not for self-preservation alone, but for ideas, for hope, for each other. They innovate on the battlefield, creating tactics from chaos. They defy probability. They are unpredictable. He looked up, meeting the silent gaze of the council elders. Our most sacred law, the first directive, has always been clear. Do not make contact. It was a rule of non-interference, designed to protect nascent civilizations from our influence. We believed it was to protect them. He lowered his head again. We were wrong. It was never to protect them. It was to protect us from them. The council remained silent, the weight of his words echoing in the vast chamber. The first rule, the foundation of their entire cosmic order, had been broken the moment their ships entered Earth's orbit, and now they understood why it existed. Touching humanity, engaging with them, had unleashed a force they could not comprehend or contain. A species that thrived on chaos, that drew strength from impossible odds, and that refused to accept the concept of an unwinnable fight. As the last alien ship vanished from Earth's sensors, Eva stood up, a slow, weary smile spreading across her face. A new era was dawning. The universe had just met humanity, and for the first time in 1 billion years, the universe was afraid. The rules had been broken, and humanity had not just survived, they had endured, and they were just getting started. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the edge of the cosmos. For eons, the Galactic Council held one truth to be self-evident. The universe operated on predictable laws of power, technology, and biology. Species were catalogued, their strengths and weaknesses logged, their potential calculated down to the last decimal, and then they encountered humanity, a small, fragile species from a forgotten corner of the galaxy. They were deemed insignificant, a footnote in the cosmic ledger. But oh, how wrong they were. Today, the grand chambers of the Council echo with a debate that will redefine the galaxy itself. The old laws are being torn apart, page by page, all because of us. No longer can any species afford to underestimate humans. It turns out, you can't quantify willpower. There's no metric for our sheer, stubborn refusal to give up. Our unpredictability became our greatest weapon, our adaptability, a force of nature. We didn't just survive encounters that should have annihilated us, we thrived. We took the impossible and made it our playground. While these cosmic debates raged, a woman named Mara was tending to her hydroponic garden in a fledgling human settlement on a moon the Council had uneven bothered to name. She hummed a tune her grandmother taught her, completely unaware that her name, along with countless other human pioneers, was being whispered in awe across star systems. She had no idea that her simple act of surviving a catastrophic solar flare, using nothing but salvaged ship plating in her wits, was now a case study for stunned alien strategists. The universe had shifted on its axis. The first humans to venture into the void, those brave, reckless souls, hadn't just explored space. They had touched forces beyond the Council's comprehension. They encountered anomalies that rewrite physics, stared into the eyes of entities from other dimensions, and somehow, they came back. Changed, yes, scarred, certainly, but stronger, more resilient. They didn't just bend the rules, they broke them and then wrote new ones. Legends began to spread like wildfire through the star lanes. Tales of a single human engineer, jury-rigging a dying starship with parts from a kitchen appliance to save his crew. Stories of a lone diplomat, outthinking a hive mind that had conquered 1,000 worlds. The name human was no longer a synonym for fragile or primitive. It became a symbol of hope for the small and the overlooked, a warning to the arrogant and the powerful. We became the embodiment of an undeniable truth. It's not the size of the species in the fight, but the size of the fight in the species. The Council's decision was unanimous. The law was rewritten. A new clause was added, unofficially known as the human factor. It was a simple acknowledgement of the unknown, a tribute to the unquantifiable spirit that could topple empires. We, the small, unassuming species from a blue-green world, had altered the balance of power in the universe, not with advanced warships or psychic abilities, but with something far more potent, our indomitable humanity. We are the small, the fragile, the unstoppable, and the galaxy is just beginning to understand what that truly means. Have you ever wondered what would happen if humanity was put to the ultimate test, not by our own doing, but by the entire universe? Imagine a cosmic law, an unbreakable rule that governs all of existence. Now, imagine humanity breaking that rule. For eons, the galaxy operated on a simple principle: might makes right. Powerful empires rose and fell, cosmic beings wielded unimaginable energies, and the law of the universe was clear: the strong survive, the weak perish. Then, they found us. A small blue planet teeming with creatures they deemed fragile, chaotic, and utterly insignificant. In their grand cosmic court, humanity was judged and found wanting. We were a curiosity, a primitive species destined to be a mere footnote in the annals of galactic history. The universal law was set before us, a challenge so immense it was meant to be a final crushing lesson. The terms were simple: conform or be erased. For any other species, the choice would have been obvious. They would have bowed, accepted their place, and assimilated into the grand, cold order of the cosmos. But they didn't know humans. They didn't understand our stubbornness, our illogical hope, our sheer refusal to give up, even when faced with impossible odds. We were told our emotions were a weakness, our individualism a flaw, our diversity a source of fatal division. The great powers of the universe watched, expecting us to crumble. They sent their challenges, their unstoppable forces, their logical paradoxes designed to break our spirit. They threw asteroids at our worlds, unleashed technological plagues, and presented us with choices that should have torn us apart. And for a while, it almost worked. We despaired, we fought amongst ourselves, we questioned if survival was even worth the cost. But then, something amazing happened. In the face of total annihilation, we didn't just find our strength, we rediscovered our humanity. Our supposed weaknesses became our greatest weapons. Our emotions fueled not just fear, but a fierce love for our homes and each other. Our individualism sparked brilliant, unorthodox strategies that no logical machine could have ever conceived. Our diversity became a wellspring of endless solutions, as scientists, artists, soldiers, and dreamers came together, offering their unique perspectives to solve a problem bigger than all of us. We didn't fight them with their own weapons of overwhelming force. We couldn't. Instead, we outthought them, outmaneuvered them, and most importantly, we outlasted them. We used their own rigid laws against them, finding loopholes in logic that only a flawed organic mind could see. We turned their tests of strength into displays of endurance. We faced their threats not with a united fist, but with 1 billion helping hands. And so, we broke the first rule of the universe. We, the weak, the chaotic, the underestimated, survived. The predicted catastrophe, the cosmic backlash for our defiance, never came. Or perhaps it did, but the price was nothing compared to what we gained. We earned something more valuable than territory or technology. We earned respect. Across the galaxy, the beings who had once dismissed us now watched in stunned silence. They saw a species that could stare into the abyss and not only refuse to jump, but build a bridge across it. The final report from Captain Zorlin, the alien commander sent to oversee our demise, became legendary. His last transmission, logged for all the universe to hear, was not a declaration of our failure, but a testament to our spirit. He recorded, "They break rules, they defy odds, and yet, they endure." Perhaps the universe itself has underestimated its most unpredictable creation, humanity. We had survived. We had shown them all that survival isn't just about the strength of your starships or the power of your weapons. It's about heart. It's about adaptability. It's about the courage to hope when all hope seems lost. We didn't conquer the galaxy. We didn't need to. We just proved we belonged in it. And from that day forward, the stars looked down on Earth, not with pity or contempt, but with a newfound sense of wonder. And the galaxy would never, ever forget the name of humanity. Thanks for watching. If you love stories about the unshakable human spirit, hit that like button and subscribe for more. What do you think is humanity's greatest strength? Let me know in the comments below. See you in the next one.